What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming through, tuning in to Blunts and Discussions. I'm your bro host, The Ride.
I'm Nuke.
I'm Kamikaze.
And with us today, we have Mr. X. Mr. X is a certain someone who he actually helped participate in the My Fall from Heaven video. He's also has contributed very much to this My Fall from Heaven album. He's going to be featured on there. So yeah, Mr. X, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what your background is.
Yeah, so my background is I spent 8 years in the United States Army as an infantryman, both National Guard, active duty, reserves, and then back into the Guard. I was a civilian police officer in Junction City, Kansas for a hot minute. Spent about a year doing private security contracting overseas for a tier 1 mercenary company. Worked in the intelligence community as a cyber behavioral detection instructor for the JTTF, and continue to assist here and there on the side for the IC community. I'm also a high priest of the Lord for the entire tradition of Triskelion Wicca, and also a master mason within 2 Blue Lodges, Royal Arch, and Cryptic Council in AMD.
So everybody, I hope you grabbed your dose of keys, because you just met the most interesting man on the planet.
That's right. That's right. Well, we talked a little bit about it before, man, but just give a little bit of background on, there was a time, man, I don't know if you do it anymore, but there was a time where you did rap, right? You were doing music?
There was. That was when I was very young and stupid. So when I was about 16, I thought myself to be a rapper. And I was that young kid that would sit in front of the computer screen, type out lyrics, listen to free beats all day, go into the little shitty $10 microphone and, just constantly record. I started getting a little bit of a name for myself when I go to like little freestyle competitions. And the reason being is because I had a little trick up my sleeve where I would sit in front of the computer and I would record words and play it backwards and memorize how to say it backwards. And once I memorized the vernacular structure of a word backwards, I would record it backwards, play it back, and it would be correct. So when I'd go to a freestyle competition and I knew I was getting my ass kicked, that was my secret weapon that I would pull out, and then the whole crowd would just be like, "What the fuck was that shit?" And it would
back.
Yeah. And like like the simplest one was like die. You would just say "I'd" and like IDE, "I'd," and every time you'd record that and play it backwards, it would say die every time. But you just had to sit there and practice it for about 2-3 hours, and you'd have it down perfect. And it was a great little secret weapon for doing little freestyle battles. But then I ended up hooking up with Killa C out of Billings, Montana, Dirty Thug Records with them. Fucked around with them for a while. Did a show with, what was it, Unholy Union out of Saginaw, Michigan. Went out to the Gathering of the Juggalos in 2003 in Garrettsville, Ohio. Entered their MC competition out there and was definitely on a green leafy substance at the time for about the whole week. And I was pretty surprised I ended up getting second place out there in the freestyle competition. So that was pretty dope. There was about, I don't know, probably 160,000 people out there. And it was only like my third time on stage. And so I was a little intimidated, but I think the green leafy substance helped a little bit.
Shout out to the green leafy substance.
Well, that was probably like the least of what everybody else was on and shit. You're probably
yeah. But no, at 18, I joined the Army. And when I joined the Army, I just didn't have time for music anymore. So I just kind of put it on the shelf and left it alone.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Were you guys busting flows and whatnot in the barracks and all that shit on your downtime or no?
Every once in a while, very rarely. About the only time that I can say that I really had time to do that was honestly in Iraq. Surprisingly, you'd think you'd have a lot more downtime, when you're CONUS back stateside sitting on base with nothing to do. No, as an infantryman, you never have nothing to do. They're always going to find something for you to do. Right. And really, the only time you actually had any downtime is when you're in the theater of combat.
Waiting for shit to pop off.
Right. Like once a month, they would give you like 5 days of tower guard. And you would sit up in a gun tower for like a 12-hour shift for 5 days straight, and that was your downtime for the month. Right. Other than that, you were out on mission for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Shit. Man.
So when you were at the Gathering of the Juggalos, you said you won second place, and that was your third time on stage ever. But as far as amount of time that you put into it before you got to that point, like you said, you already had a secret weapon with the frontwards backwards. Like that sounds like, even if you didn't put in a lot of hours, you definitely put a lot of thought into having something that's of substance and you had as a secret weapon. Like,
right. And maybe a little bit of divine, sympathies from, some spiritual, allies, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first day, I go up to Jump Steady, who is Violent J's brother, I think, and the producer for Psychopathic, and I was just like, yeah, my name's Specta, whatever, right? And he's like, okay, and I did it straight a cappella, no music, no beat, no nothing, just went up there dancing around, jumping around in the fucking wrestling ring and rapping, right? And the second time I go up there, I see this guy that I recognized from the Twin Cities that, we used to hang around with and shit. And I was like, hey, you want to team up with me? And he's like, sure. So we decided to just change it up and we're going to go fucking, rap together. Right. Yep. So we're backstage next on docket to go up. And I see these two guys that I've never met before and they're just beatboxing behind the stage. And I walk up to them. I was like, hey, you guys beatbox? And they're like, fuck yeah, ninja. And I was like, all right, cool. You want to beatbox for us? And he's like, hell yeah. So we walked back up to Jump Steady. I said, okay, now it's 4 of us. And he goes, what the fuck are you going to call yourselves? And I was like, the 4 corners of freestyle. Just right off the top of the head.
That's
and we
dope,
rolled out there and crushed it for like 15 minutes straight, dude. It was fucking amazing. And right after that, I remember I got off stage and V Sinister was sitting out there, and he had won the competition like 3 years in a row, got a record deal with Psychopathic for doing it, right? And he grabs me, kidnaps me, and he's like, "Yo, bro, you got to stop throwing this, you know, when you're up there." I was like, "Why?" I was like, "It's 666," and he's like, "No, that means something else." He kind of takes me under his wing, and we just like walked around for the next 3 days together, and I don't think I slept or ate or anything. We just like smoked a lot of green leafy substance and just kept walking around and finding random people to rap battle, and it was a good time.
So that's what you meant when you said that you had like-minded people. Those are the people you're talking about?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because I would think almost like-minded people, that's almost one of the things, like juggalos and those festivals, they get a lot of shit, but they, from every juggalo I've ever known and what I know of the culture, they are a very like accepting and encouraging audience to begin with. Like, but still, they have to pick a winner, and you guys definitely were doing something that was above and beyond just going up there trying to freestyle high and shit. Like y'all had a plan. Yeah, that's just dope.
Yeah, that's a cool experience, man.
Yeah, and about the only other brush in with the music scene that I had since then was, when I was at my police academy, and God, this was like 2008. I was down outside of Wichita, Kansas at this police academy, and Killa C out of nowhere calls me. I hadn't talked to him in like 8 years, and he goes, "What's up, you green piggy bitch?" And I was like, "Well, how you doing?" He goes, "Hey, me and Tech Nine are doing the show at the Cotillion. I got some VIP passes for you and a couple of your friends if you want to go." I was like, "All right, I haven't seen you in a while. Fuck it, we'll go over there." And I think Liquid Assassin was with him at the time too. They were doing that Grave Plots thing at the time.
Yeah.
And so my partner from JCPD, he's the only one that ends up going with me. And so we go in civilian clothes. We got our heat on us, go and park in the parking lot beforehand, call Wichita PD, like, "Hey, if you hear about a couple of white guys with guns at this concert, it's us. Like, don't freak out,
Right.
And so then I go inside to go get the VIP pass, and Tech Nine's head of security comes walking up to me, this big old dude, and he goes, "You're a cop." I go, "How the fuck you know that?" And he goes, "It's the way you carry your arms. Your arms swing out to the sides. You're used to wearing that duty belt." I was like, "Oh, shit." But, yeah, we went and hung out with them for a while, probably about an hour before the show. Enjoyed the show, hung out for another 10 minutes, and then came back way past curfew.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, how I said, like, it had been like 8 years since I even heard from Killa C, right? And he just calls out of the blue and like, "Hey, I'm in your area right now," right? It's a testament about holding on to true friends, right? You can see so many times within the music community, whether it's your spiritual community or anything, right? You can get a lot of fake people. You can get a lot of what they call frenemies, right? That ain't really there for you. And it's kind of like what Nuke said, in that juggalo community, they really are a pretty tight fucking community, right? And so you can go almost a decade without even talking to somebody, and they'll hit you up and be like, "Hey, I'm in your neck of the woods. What's up?" Right?
Right.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, I would agree. I would say that's probably about right. It seems like it. I'm not in that community, but, I know a lot of people that are, and it definitely seems like they got each other's backs and they matter to each other. You know what I mean? It's like almost like an extended family,
Yeah, it's like an island of misfits.
Yeah, that's what it is.
For sure.
And they support the shit out of music,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
At all stages, like even at early stages, when they're the type of crowd that like they can see if somebody's got potential compared to what they're bringing you, or they see the art in something that may have flaws in against the popular the ear, like the pop fan.
Yeah,
people who listen to mainstream music, they're gonna pick apart the song, but like the juggalos particularly, man, they'll rock with you if you put an effort in it.
That's those kind of shows. Like I remember early on when like we would try to put on our own shows, you'd have like maybe 100 people in the crowd, maybe 200. It's like one of your very first shows you try putting on, and they make it feel like there's 2,000 people there. They will hype the shit out of you and make you feel amazing. Like it really is a pretty damn tight fan base.
Yeah, that's what I've seen too. Like, yeah, there's Yeah, I've been to shows before too, man, where it's like they show up to support, and even though whoever was on stage was fucking terrible, you know. Like,
There's some motherfuckers right up front.
Yeah,
you know? They all got fans.
Yeah,
It's like he's still one of us. He's here riding with us.
yeah, for sure.
You can't get big headed like, oh, I'm gonna go up there and kill it, and then you go up there and kill it, and there's like 2 people up there because I don't know who the fuck you are. You know, it's not always about just because you feel you're doper. You know, just I don't know, man. People like what they like.
Yeah,
that's true. Well, you know what? I'm gonna, if it's okay with you guys, I'm actually about to pull up this My Fall from Heaven video. I'm not gonna play it all the way through or anything, but I'm not gonna play the audio really. But I was thinking about maybe kind of, you know, just kind of telling people how this day went. You know, this
like a director's cut.
Yeah, this was in the day, man. You know.
Director's commentary. I love it.
I don't break character till after the DVD commentary.
That's right.
You see how Hearts and Graves got a second billing to Brainsick, and then that was a conscious decision. I believe it was. I don't know. We were thinking about that. Even like that's how much detail went into the videos. Even like everything that you're about to see was on Microsoft Word in writing. You know, like.
I want to tell you guys too, like this little scene right here was probably the most scared I've been in my entire life. Right? No.
You're
about to throw my baby under the bus. Here we go.
Bro. I had 330 combat missions under my belt, right? Like, and I'm telling you, like my truck had been blown to shit twice, right? And this scene right here was the most scared I'd ever been in my life because like I just met Kamikaze and we hit it off and we're like fucking brothers right off the get-go, right? And he's like, I don't ever let anybody drive the baby. Here, hands me the keys and they're like, yeah, you're gonna drive this. And I'm like, what? Why? And they're like, because he's got other scenes to shoot. And I'm like, fuck me. You know, so now I'm driving this thing and the cars are going 80 miles an hour in the cross section and I'm trying to pull out and I damn near get T-boned and I'm like, how in the fuck am I going to explain this to him?
And not to mention the car ran like shit because the car's in the shop right now still getting finished. The car was not ready to be doing what it was doing that day. But I limped it over there. Man, that shit had an exhaust leak. Fucking, it ran like shit when it was hot. In this scene right here, it stalled like 17 times. I was trying to get it up to fucking
right there.
Yep.
Yeah. my car was not happy, bro. Like I was driving it home, like just hoping it would make it home. I almost didn't take it that day.
Well, that sure was pretty though, right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, as long as you can't hear the sound.
Yeah, we must have pulled up that driveway or that little hill about 7 or 8 times. Like, yep, the car's conking out back there again. Fuck.
Yeah, and they wanted me to back it up like way back every time, and I'm like, bro, this thing keeps dying.
Yeah,
it was all bad. It was all bad.
Man, I thought I was going to kill your car so bad.
That was
Oh
a nice
man!
one shot with the drone. That was a drone shot that went into the back of the van. That shit was dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. And this was also a super hot day. When did we do this? Was it in August?
August 19th.
August 19th. God damn.
Yeah.
I don't know how hot it was, man, but it was burning. You know,
Felt like it was 100 degrees. I almost died twice. I felt like.
yeah, no shit.
Hot enough for heat stroke, yeah.
You know, so that's Nuke in the front, and that's me with the pistol on Kamikaze in the back. But dude, the masks were like, what the fuck
They were
were
like
these
wool.
made out of? Yeah, like
They were-
wool. Like, dude.
Basically wool mask. Yeah.
Oh my god, like man, just trying to breathe through that shit, man. You know,
It was the quality ones too. Like,
yeah, yeah.
It wasn't the dollar store ones and shit.
No, these are $19.99 on
Yeah.
sale and shit.
Rumor has it that you guys had hand warmers taped on the inside of those masks too, right?
Oh, shit.
Just to make it
every
real.
time, man, every time I took it off, it was like it was ridiculous, man.
Lose
It was
20
probably like
pounds of
100
sweat.
degrees. It's probably 100 degrees in that shop, in that warehouse or garage. My car was running like shit that day too because we were idling it for so long there. It's got electric fans in it now, so I don't have that problem. I shouldn't.
Good.
Yeah, we were hoping every time we would do a take with the Impala, like, we got it, right? Because it's probably only got like maybe one more in it, and we still got to make it home.
Yeah, I had to dip out the parking lot. Like, man, I got to hit the road. My shit's like hitting like fucking, I don't remember what it was at. It was crossing over like 210 or something. Higher than what it was normally supposed to be sitting at when you're moving.
Yeah, they did a good job setting up that scene though, right there.
That was all real sweat. That was not makeup sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on that table dying. I didn't even know it. I was dying right there. I didn't even know.
Go back.
Yeah.
Look at the pile.
You could hear the pooling of sweat sound like a little creak and shit under my head. Like it sounded like motherfucker was out there fishing or something.
Bro, I remember coming up and like loosening your boots and everything and telling you like, bro, you need to take a break. And you're like, nah, I got this. And I'm like, bro, you're going to fucking...
I'm trying to look miserable. This is exactly what I want to look like.
Yeah. Let's make lemonade.
Yeah.
That was his
I'm
thing
method
for
acting.
longest, lemonade.
I'm method acting for my video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to like really look miserable, but I probably should have just drank more water, you know?
Definitely. Because you came in and said that, and I probably said it to him like 5 minutes earlier and shit, saying, "Well, you definitely need some water." He's like, "I'm good."
I was
like,
fine until I tried to sit up and start rapping, though. That's when I started like overheating. I'm in a onesie, mind you. I'm in the Michael Myers mechanic jumpsuit and shit with shorts and a shirt underneath.
And like one of those fucking keep your meal fucking warm buffet lights right over your fucking head too.
Yeah, that motherfucker was hot. That motherfucker was hot. Right there when I was getting drugged down that hallway, there was like a scene there where he like slid me over a rock in like slow motion.
It's all gravel right there.
Oh, yeah. Fuck.
Gravel
Yeah,
right
I
there.
left that night with like my back was tore up. We all, I think, had a wound of some sort. At least me and Ride did. I don't know. Luke, did you?
I'm sure I did. I could hardly like. Yeah, I think I don't know, man. I definitely had like some bumps and bruises and shit just from because not only did we shoot the video in like literally 105-degree weather, but we did all the setup earlier that day from early in the morning, and we brought shit there the previous night just for setting it all up. So it was like I was exhausted from the night before and coming into it, but yeah, that shit did kind of work out. We put that shit into the energy of the video. Like, man, we're gonna do this shit right.
I love that scene where Mr. X comes in and just shuts the nurse down with his face. Like, he didn't even say shit to her. He just went in there and commanded respect. And she was like, oh, shit.
I remember them almost shitting themselves afterwards, and they were like, "Are you an actor?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah. Bro, he was just chilling on the set the whole time. Nobody heard him do anything. Nobody knew that he had any of this in him. And they were like, action. And he just took off into character, screaming, fucking, what the fuck is this? Like, we all looked at each other like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was perfect.
They were all handing me business cards at the end of it and shit too.
Were they really?
Bro, you went in there and killed it. Like, you've been doing that. There was no hesitation of his character whatsoever.
Well, yeah, and I mean, part of that is just because, like, that's me.
Yeah, you play you well.
Yeah, I'm a
I
pretty
just didn't
jovial
know.
guy, but when I can flip that switch, I can flip that switch. You know, like
Me and him were kicking it for like 2 hours prior to that. Hey, regular conversation, and all of a sudden, what the fuck?
yeah. It's like, I don't
Ride
give a
really
fuck.
punched me. Ride really punched me right there. I don't know if anybody knows that.
I do remember them saying that. Like, he punched him. He really punched him.
He didn't really punch me, but he I don't know.
No, that was a fast cut. That's a camera trick we did right there. We told the editor to skip a frame right when he's connecting, or I think he may have came up with the idea, but it was a trick to make it look faster. Like, so it looked
Mind
like
you-
the punch landed.
While we were editing this video, I'm sitting over there with COVID, not knowing and shit. I tested positive for COVID the very next day, and I had to call all the fellas like, hey, sorry about that.
You remember how we were hanging out last night?
When we were editing, you mean? Yeah, when we were editing.
Yeah, in the editing, I'm over there fucking COVID deep and shit.
Yeah, probably the worst scene, to shoot it was that grain silo, right? Because I remember too, we were like, can we get him some goggles? Yeah,
me and Kyle Johnson were cleaning dirt out of our eyes immediately.
Yeah,
he left looking upset that he had his drone in that dust or something. Like,
and I wasn't even in there. Me and Nuke were out in the other room because we weren't needed during this shot. And I remember he came out there like opening his fucking suitcase, the drone suitcase, like all fast and angry, lifting the shit up, like putting the shit away. Like, are you done? He's like, yeah, I'm done. Like, yeah, I'm done, motherfucker. Got sand all in my shit.
We were winging it in the silo.
Bro, y'all had that silo drone going for
what is that?
God, almost an hour. And then when I come in there at the end with the yep. Yeah, that was the train wreck right there.
Bro, I was weak. I could barely walk for like 20,
I'm gonna take a nap for a second.
And Mr. Rex.
Yeah.
Explained because he was overheating.
Yep.
Put him out there, but you got a whole thing wrapped around his wrist and all that, which none of us had ever actually heard. What was the benefit?
Yeah, so he was going through heat stroke. And so essentially it was just taking like cool wrappings, ice cool wrappings, putting around hot points like over his neck and over his wrist. And this is basically just to try to cool down some of the bloodstream, as his blood is pumping through him, hoping to kind of cool him down a little bit. I mean, obviously, like the groin would be a good spot for it too, but you don't want to look like you're pissing yourself, right? But essentially just trying to, I would say, just kind of keep him cool without cooling him down too fast. I mean, you don't want to put him into shock or anything, but you needed more to eat. You needed more electrolytes in you. It probably would have been smarter of us to have like some pickle juice on hand out there.
I do remember you saying pickle juice, and I still was like,
yeah.
"What the fuck is pickle juice?"
Yeah, it's an old field trick. So like, if you get a jar of pickles, right, and you drink that pickle juice, it has the same amount of electrolytes as about 15 Gatorades, right? And so that pickle juice will snap you right back within 20 minutes.
How much of that do you need to drink? I'm gonna be up in the refrigerator and shit.
Not a whole lot. I mean, like, average drinking glass,
Ugh.
So, yeah, I mean, like I'd worked security out at the Renaissance Festival for a couple of years too, and we'd have a lot of the actors just dropping and going down. You'd have patrons dropping and going down all day because they're just boozing it up and got the 110 degree, heat beating on them all day. And all I would do is just grab a mug, dip it in those giant things of pickles, those big, huge barrels of pickles that they sell. Just slam a mug in there and walk it over to them, tell them to drink it. And within 10 minutes, they're back on their feet and going.
Go and get some more beer.
Yep.
That wrist shit definitely worked. I never thought in my life to put something cool on the wrist. So learned something that day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Never get that. Well, all right, folks, we got to pay the bill, so I'm going to go ahead and run a commercial break real quick, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Joe, what's going on with you? You seem a little down lately.
I ain't had sex with my wife in 8 months, so.
Guy, 8 months?
Yeah, she just, I don't know, man. She just doesn't do it for me anymore. Fuck.
No, why don't you just do what I do? Drink a Moldies.
Moldies? The drink? Does that shit actually work?
Hell, with your wife, you might need to drink 2 Moldies.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Moldies, get the fuck
God, man, I wish you just had the last part, man. I could watch that last part like fucking 12 times in a row.
Get you fucked up. Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm going to have to get me some fucking Moldies.
Yeah. So if you're just tuning in, you've tuned into Blunts and Discussions.
Welcome back.
Shout out to everybody in the live.
Shout out to all.
Yeah, shout out to everybody out there. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure y'all like, hit the subscribe button, share this shit. Sharing is caring. That's what they say.
So I feel like I wouldn't be me if I didn't segue into, all right, so you rapped, you went into the military. In the beginning, when you introduced yourself, you got to talking about being like a high priest in the Wiccan and being a master mason. So it's like, coming from the world that we come from, the average person's gonna think, what's going on there? Like, I guess what? Yeah, like, who are you? Like, how could you shed light on that? So maybe what the average person is thinking, maybe you can be like, because a lot of times when I talk to people who are, it's not what everybody thinks. So, what right. The average person is going to think.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. So I guess, do you want to talk about the masonry aspect first, or do you want to talk about like the Wicca aspect first?
I guess I'll leave that up to you. Which one do you think?
Well, the masonry is probably a little bit easier to discuss and a little quicker. So, I mean, a lot of people immediately, when they're like, oh, he's a Mason, they're like, oh my God, it's the Illuminati. It's, the secret hand. It's the puppet masters that control the world. And I mean, who knows? Maybe there's some of that going on that we just are completely unaware of. But honestly, it's a hell of a lot it's not as sexy as people think. Right. Like I like to tell people all the time that like it's impossible for us to be running the fucking world when it takes my lodge 8 months to decide if we're going to buy plastic totes from Walmart or Target. Right. like obviously we're not running the fucking world. Right. But masonry,
is it true? I got to ask this because Duke actually brought this up years ago. Is it true that all Freemasons love pancakes?
I mean, I haven't met a Mason that doesn't like pancakes. So I fucking
do it.
Right. I mean, it's probably as mutually exclusive as
I can't stand pancakes. I can't stand pancakes.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had a pancake.
No, I can't stand pancakes.
He's a Cowan. I don't believe it anymore.
Yeah.
Right, it's not. He's not dedicated enough.
Well, I make my pancakes.
I was going to say, I bet
I'm a waffle guy, not a pancake.
I make my pancakes out of waffle mix. That's what I do.
It's the same damn thing.
I don't like the texture of a waffle.
Yeah, every Mason out there, I'm sure, drinks water too. And there's probably a conspiracy theory behind there because you know what? I'm pretty sure the president drinks water, and I'm pretty sure that Soros drinks water, and I'm pretty sure that the World Economic Forum drinks water. And you know what? I bet Hitler drank water too. So there is a conspiracy all around water.
So what better to control them?
Like pancakes too.
Yeah. Common thing that everybody drinks water, so they can put something in the water and control you.
And turn all the frogs gay. But so why did I join Mason? Right. When I was in Kuwait working for a tier 1 company known as Triple Canopy, almost everybody out there that I was working with was a Mason. And I found that perplexing. I thought it was a little weird, right? And I was like, maybe there's something to these guys, right? So when I come back stateside around 2012, I started asking around my spiritual community and said, hey, what do you know about these Masons? And they all start laughing. I was like, what's so funny? And they're like, do you have any idea how many are in this room right now? And I was like, no. And there's like 16 of them raising their hands. I was like, oh, shit. So then they invite me to come out to a lodge one day for some, discussion. They had a kind of like a once a month open discussion thing that they called Socrates Cafe. And they would do things like use the Socratic method in their discussion, like, what does it mean to be a good man? And so we'd sit around this table at like 7:30 at night, and they'd just say, what does it mean to be a good man? Somebody would say, well, somebody that pays their bills on time. And somebody else would pipe up and say, well, could not a homeless man still be a good man, but not be able to pay any of his debts? He could still have a good heart. He could still give of himself. He could give to his community. Like, he could be out there helping people in times of need. Could that not also quantify him to be a good man? And so discussions like that would go on until about 6 a.m. And I found myself absolutely fascinated by being surrounded by a group of like-minded men from every different walk of life that wanted to pontificate on the finer points of life and what does it mean to be a good person, right? And so it hooked me. And I went through the initiations, went through the first, second, and third, got immediately involved in the officers line, and just kind of absorbed a huge part of my life. I think that as a group, it is a great fraternity that really does inspire good work and good men that do a lot of charity and a lot of good shit in the world. But it has a bad rap because it's shrouded through a lot of mystery. And people are always scared of what they don't understand or what they don't know.
All right. Yeah, that pretty much answers it. I mean, it is that last part particularly, that is still predominantly the feel that everybody gets when they hear Freemason. Like, it's like they literally have had almost no other experience as far as understanding that it's a brotherhood and kind of a community program for, specific members, but all you hear is negative shit, and it's just like tied in with so much conspiracy that it's like, yeah,
right. And keeping in mind that a lot of the anti-Masonic literature came out at the same time that they were doing some really radical things in Masonry, right? So like if we look back at the French Revolution, and the Jacobites were, basically led by Masons. The American Revolution, led by Masons. World War II, one of the very first things Hitler did is got rid of the Masonic lodges. He burnt them down to the ground, burned all their literature. Anybody that was in the military that was a Mason that was known, they were taken out. The Masons went into hiding and put little poppies on their collars to basically show other Masons, hey, I'm a Mason, because the poppy was Hitler's favorite flower, but it was also a Masonic symbol. So Hitler just saw it as like, oh, look, they love me. But it was a symbol to another Mason saying, hey, I'm a secret Mason too, right? Yeah. But for years, honestly, a couple decades, you could probably even take it a little further than that. Masonry has been a nesting ground for rebellion. And the reason being is because we inspire people to be free thinkers, to think for yourself, right? We don't tell you what to think, but we show you every door and avenue that's out there and inspire you to think creatively and to come up with solutions to make the world a better place. But to people that are tyrannical, like dictators, or even, nation states that are ruled by a certain church, right? They don't want people to think for themselves. They want you to think the way they want you to think. And so Masonry was always a place that they could meet in secret and plot rebellion against that and bring back free thought and freedom.
Yeah. It's kind of like, in my opinion, which it certainly seems like, because I got kids and somebody's messaging me, sorry. I got kids and it certainly seems like some of the topics that they discuss in the school, you know what, man? It's like this, man. The schools today, it almost seems like it's more about what to think instead of how to think. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, that's as far as I'll go.
If recent events haven't taught us that being careful of what you put out there on the internet that lasts there forever, it always comes back to bite you in your ass later, which again is another reason to have secret meetings inside of a Masonic lodge.
Yeah, straight up.
Because when you put it out there on the internet, it's always there. It never goes away.
Well, so to kind of get back to that, like, I think one of the reasons that the general public kind of has that automatic conspiratorial, or if that's the word, point of view towards Freemasons is like, because, I mean, for one, it's just all, like I said, the first part, like all you hear is the negative shit. Like people don't really investigate too much further past what they hear by word of mouth. But like, the thing, as far as like both good and bad people have gone through Freemasonry. So like, it's a fact that there's some really sketchy and shitty people in the higher ups, as far as, powerful people in society who do bad things, that went through Freemasonry. Now, when you associate Freemasonry with someone like that, then that's kind of the picture that's painted about Freemasonry. But like I said, the other side of that coin is that there's obviously mostly good people in there. It's just there's bad people that gone through it like anything else.
Sure.
It's very similar to what we saw in law enforcement all the time. You could have a department of 58 officers, and you could have maybe 3 or 4 of them that are absolute shitbags that are just terrorizing your community and making a bad name for the department, right? But the news doesn't cover every good thing that you guys do, because let's be honest, almost every time you have an interaction, it's because there's a negative consequence going on, right? And so, it's very rare to have a positive interaction in the first place anyways, right? But your goal is to try to keep the peace and make things positive at the end of it if you can, right? But, the news is only going to cover the shitheads that are acting outside of their due bounds and creating problems. And so people will only hear about the negative sides, and then automatically everybody's like, well, that whole department's corrupt. Oh, every single one of them. What do you always hear? Like all cops are bastards, right? And for people that scream about how like we shouldn't be painting everybody with a broad brush, or racism and all these other things, like that's literally what they're doing when they paint every cop as a bad person or every Mason as an evil Illuminati puppet master, right? Yeah. Like, judge the man for his actions, judge the person for what they did. Don't judge the institution, right? Don't judge the group. Don't judge the people. Judge the individual for their actions.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But do you guys care that you're looked at in a light like that by the average people who don't know or aren't a part of it? I don't know anything about it or much about it, but let's be honest, when you start asking questions, then it turns into, well, I can't tell you that unless you are one. So with secrecy comes questions, comes assumptions, and so what do Freemasons feel about that?
Well, and you actually asked a very valid and pertinent question. And the answer is yes, they do care greatly, because one of the very first things that's told to you when you're handed your lambskin apron is that you will do nothing to soil the reputation of this fraternity. You will do nothing to soil the reputation of this group. You'll do nothing to soil this apron, which is a badge of a Mason, right? And so, yes, we care greatly, because when Masons do bad things, they are immediately excommunicated out of Mason. And we make it publicly known to every Mason in the jurisdiction, you don't talk to this dude anymore. They get shunned, hardcore shunned, right? We care a great deal about what the public thinks about us. We care a great deal about what we do in the world, right? Don't judge anything but the actions of the men, right? And that man is no longer a Mason because he's not acting like one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As much as it can.
Yeah. I just feel like if you guys care greatly about how people feel, wouldn't it be like, why so much of the secrecy? Like, I'm sure everybody has to have their secrets or whatnot, but why not divulge more information so maybe people have a better understanding?
The answer's simple. It's to make it important to you. The secrets of Masonry are as simple as Sunday school, Bible school, right? Like real simple things, right? Like, don't steal. Don't take things that don't belong to you. Don't fuck your best bud's fucking wife, right? Like, don't kill somebody, right? Don't fucking go out of your way to harm somebody. Go out of your way instead to be good to people. But shh, it's a secret. Because now that I made it a secret, it's important to you. Now that I bound you by oath not to reveal secrets, it's important to you. But if all you do is you show up and we dance you around, you march around in hearing weird things and, stomps and knocks and all this other shit, and we're like, hey, now you're a Mason. All those things that we just imparted into your head don't matter. It was just a thing that you went through. But if you go through this deep, solemn ceremony, and now we go, shh, it's a secret. Now it's important to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's like, if it wasn't a secret, then you have the potential of being like, okay, I'm going to do my best to, or now that I know what I'm supposed to do. And then you kind of go out and you do it for the wrong reasons and shit. Like you said, if you're being generous and shit, well, now you're going around bragging like, yeah, I'm being generous because this is the rule. You know what I mean? There's a reason for this. And like, you're still not kind of, I'm sure, again, I'm speculating because I'm not a Freemason, but like you've kind of learned how to actually, take that point and live it instead of taking information and not living by it because it's not as, I don't know. I'm losing my fucking train of thought too.
So I guess in regular terms, it's like KFC's not just giving everybody their recipe. They put it under lock and key, because if they didn't, everybody would have the recipe and they'd be selling on the corner, but they wouldn't be measuring everything just right. So they have all the ingredients and know everything, but they're fucking it up on the,
Yeah.
Yep, that's actually a really good analogy. Yep. Yeah, because honestly too, like if you didn't have the control metric of secrets, a book of constitutions of things that are punishable and what you need to do and what not to do, right? And laws, rules, and regulations governing that body, then everybody that came through could just be like, well, maybe I don't want to give to charity and I want to keep all my money to myself and do whatever. Well, maybe I don't want to not fuck my best friend's wife, And then they start an offshoot of Masonry that everybody thinks is Masonry, but it's not, right?
Yeah.
This way you have a control metric that you are only going to bestow those things, those honors, those titles to people that are fucking worthy, right? To people that really, truly will do it. Right.
But there are clandestine Masons out there that, that don't abide by their oath. And it's like, yeah, I'm with everything except that part. And, like I do want to fuck my buddy's wife. For real, like, dude, there's some, like, there's good cops, bad cops, good doctors, bad doctors, like good Masons, bad Masons. And it's like, just on a personal note, man, like, COVID has exposed a lot of people's fucking thoughts, man, on shit that's like, bro, yeah, man, bro, you know what, man? On that note, let's just run a commercial.
That's right, baby. Mm-hmm. Come on, you.
Yeah, I'm trying.
That's it. Again, you know what? I can't do it. I just can't. You should have got a Moldies.
Erectile dysfunction damaging your love life? Try Moldies, the new revolutionary alcoholic drink that makes you stand up and be somebody. This drink contains alcohol. Side effects may include diarrhea, vomit, rash, heartburn, blue balls, rectal bleed, loss of memory, diabetes, and atrophic vaginitis. Moldies does not protect against STDs. Consult a doctor if you show any of these symptoms.
Oh, ooh, that was great. Pass me a Moldies.
Moldies.
Thanks, Moldies. And we're back with Blunts and Discussions. Shout out to everybody tuning in. Once again, hit that like button, hit that share button, notification button, all that stuff. We're glad y'all are here. And we're here with Mr. X. Once again, I'm your bro host, The Bride.
I'm Luke.
I'm Kamikaze. We are Blunts and Discussions.
Nailed it.
I didn't know what all the extra point was. I was just winging it there.
I was surprised because it's like the Brady Bunch fucking squares and shit. But you're really over on this side. But on this screen, it looks like you're over there, and it's all fucked up.
I was trying to read the signals, and there was no signals.
Yeah, it was all bad hand signals and shit.
Maybe next time I point up at you.
Yeah, well,
point over at him, right?
That doesn't work.
We all look like high school umpires.
Yeah.
This is the Blunts part of Blunts and Discussions where we just start
hiding the
zoning out. But before the break, we were talking about what was the next topic we were discussing?
So I think you guys.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just trying to find a way to segue into, so it's like he went from the rapping, he went to the military, gave up the rapping, he went on to have a highly decorated career, it sounds like, in different fields. And, with the Freemasonry and the average person thinking, Illuminati and this, and not only that, you add the Wiccan to it, which people automatically think Freemason, they think the dark stuff and all that. So it's just interesting to hear a perspective from the man who's living that life.
Right. So I got to tell you, I've done an interview before on another syndicated radio show about my journey into Wicca, and that was an hour and a half long. So
I got bonus.
Maybe we should just ask more specific questions.
Yeah. Well, and so in general, I guess we could say, like, what is Wicca, right? And we can talk about some of those aspects to maybe dispel rumors, conjecture, and maybe some heinous thoughts that people have about it, right? In general, I would say 98% of most Wiccans are not Wiccans. They are by right that they call themselves, and that alone. Most people in the actual craft that have gone through initiatory schools and mystery school initiations, we basically call them Barnes and Noble witches, right? They went down to Barnes and Noble, go into the New Age area, pick up a book, and they start reading it. And before 3 months go by, they start calling themselves a high priest. And they have nothing more than like 3 chapters read into a fucking book by Silver Raven Dildo. And, they start their little wannabe coven with like 13 angsty teens, and, it's just crap, right? The real aspects of Wicca, you got to kind of go back to who is the founder of the 1960s, 1950s population of Wicca, which was Gerald Gardner. Now, Gardner was born to some like Oprah Winfrey fuck you money, in the early 1900s, right? And he got shipped off to India because he had asthma, and his parents couldn't be seen with a blemish like that in their family. So he gets shipped off with his nanny at like age fucking 1 out to India, and grows up his entire life in India. So he's surrounded by all these swamis and gurus and mystics, and he's learning all about Indian culture in India. Well, then by the time he turns 18, he leaves India and he goes to Africa, and he starts studying African tribal magic, and he becomes obsessed with it. And he documents it for about 5 years, goes back to England. And once he gets into England, he joins, what's that? Freemasonry, and he becomes a Mason. Well, once he becomes a Mason, he's introduced to some of the aspects of Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. He becomes a Rosicrucian. From the Rose-Croix, he ends up joining the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is a very illustrious, very large Western ceremonial magic fraternity. And he meets Aleister Crowley out there, the very famous Crowley, the beast, right? The evil one, if you would, right? And they become good, fast friends. Crowley tries bringing him into the OTO, Order Templar Odiatus, also known as the Temple of the East. He rejects it, goes back to his lodge, and he says, man, I've learned the magic and the mysticism of the Hindis. I've learned the African tribal magic. I've learned the magic of the Jews, but like, where's our people? What about the Brits? And they all said, well, Gerald, they're all fucking dead. The witch hunts went through and purged them all. They killed them all. And that wasn't good enough for him. So he kept asking for about 3 years straight. And then a group of women come knocking on his door, and they said, we heard you were asking about us. And he said, yeah, I have been. And they said, would you like to go to a ritual? And he said, yes. And that was his initiation. And he describes this in this very first utterance of the word Wicca in a black and white BBC interview. God, this would have been like early 60s, probably like 61, 62. And he says that there he was, blindfolded, naked, kneeling on the floor with a cable tow around his neck, his arm, and his waist. And the blindfold is removed, and he's staring down the length of a silver sword put to his throat. And at the end of the sword is a beautiful naked woman standing before him. And he stares into her eyes and says, what is this? And she says, Wicca. Wicca is about duality and balance in all things, positive and negative, sun, moon, Lord, lady, God, goddess, positive, negative, black, white, right? Like it is about perfect balance in all things. So the power to heal is also the power to kill, and the power to kill is also the power to heal. And so you don't walk around like some loving like hippie. You got tools on your belt to cause fucking chaos and havoc if you need to. But ultimately, you serve what is called the great work, which is to live and die for something better than yourself and something greater than yourself, and to make this world a better place through your actions. But just like how a cop walks around with a gun, why does he need a gun? Because sometimes there's bad people out there that need to be dealt with. And so you learn those aspects of magic as well, because sometimes there's things that need to be dealt with. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. This is Mr. Rex doing his ritualistic thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's me sitting in the master's chair. Yeah.
He definitely has an interesting background.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, these pictures you actually sent to me because we were considering doing another kamikaze video shoot, and some of the storyline was kind of similar to this, you know, like the path, and you know, it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. Like, you know, it wound up becoming something that was like, yeah, this is about to be an expensive video shoot again. You know? So
yeah, that ritual that you're showing there too was out at the Earth House Midsummer Gather, like, God, probably like 5-6 years ago. And I was putting on a mass public ritual out there with like maybe like 90 some odd people in attendance for it. And it was a kind of a rewrit of an old ritual for a dedication to the goddess Hecate. And I turned it from a simple ritual that's done with just a candle and one person in the dark to a mass public display with 90 people carrying torches in the darkness, bringing it to one giant illuminary point and communing.
yeah.
That's interesting lighting. I'm always looking at the lighting now.
No, and those torches was great too, because like, you know, you learn to be crafty, right? And like, it looks sexy as shit in the pictures, and it looked sexy as shit when we were walking in the darkness with it too, right? But like the photo of me in the front, kind of like just holding one singular in the hand, that was nothing more than like a dollar store plunger, right? and all I did is take the dowel out of the plunger and just threw away the rubber, right? And then I took probably about 6 white socks from Walmart and just threw them over the top of it and put baling wire around it, put a heat shield in there and a screw, and then just dipped it in kerosene. And then when it was time to go, just light it up and walk with it.
So if you need to make you a torch, some sort of safety. Yeah.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Yes, you know, no, I need to put up on. Yeah. Don't try this at home.
Blunts and discussion does not promote any of these activities.
Whole household is missing plungers and shit. Kids out back.
Yeah, and likewise for the big, tall, like 4-foot torches. I went down to, I think it was Axeman, and just got a bunch of wheelbarrow handles, and we used those. And same kind of concept. Instead of socks, we just used a burlap sack and wrapped it around baling wire, screws. We just dipped it in kerosene and go.
Yeah, I was actually looking at this. We didn't really storyboard that out. I was looking at the ritual that you had sent us, and we kind of, I didn't get a chance to tell you, but we were kind of picking apart what you had sent us. Like, well, how can we achieve that ritual that you're talking about, but adding in these effects and making it in a timely manner and all that? We had a pretty good. I really think it was actually something. The lighting, like like Kazi said, like the lighting in itself, like the torch and all that shit, especially in the evening. is a
Dramatic.
Yeah, dramatic as hell, man. You know what I mean? Like, you pay attention to that shit. You know what I mean? And shout out to Blair, or who would have, maybe it was Jeff, who did the lighting in the My Fall from Heaven video, because I never even envisioned that red light being in that area, you know, where you were on the bed, and shit, you know, or getting injected. Like, the red light set that shit off too. You know what I mean?
Right. Ooh.
I don't know if this froze up.
Did he freeze up?
No, I'm still here. Yep.
No, Rods is.
Y'all there?
Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
There he is.
Yeah, I don't know what
we're tapped into again. That's what happened.
This has never happened before, man. It's all this topics and shit, man. Mr. fucking X.
What a coincidence.
Weird.
Mr. X.
Mr. fucking X.
Well, it sounds like he must be in the know of some things. So
I don't want to say anything.
Yeah,
that's
you know
fuck
what?
up
And since
my
we've already
Wi-Fi.
crossed that line of in the know, you know, it's obvious they're tapping in because Mr. X is here and shit. What can you tell us? What can you tell us about the aliens? That's what we all want to know. You're a Freemason. You're an ex-military guy. So, you know, what's up with these fucking aliens, man?
So,
what do you know that we don't know?
You had to see some aliens out when you're.
You know, there's a lot of cool things out there. You know, there's a lot of things that just can't be discussed in general, and that's not even just like cool guy shit. Like, you know, you get that drunk in the bar that's like, I was a Navy SEAL, you know, and you're like, yeah,
Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was, but like, I mean, he's on the docket, right? But like, you know, you get guys that like, there was like what 280 some odd Navy SEALs that served in Vietnam, and I've met 800 of them. You know, like, you know, and they always do that, like, oh, I can't talk about this shit. I mean, but that's pretty real on some shit. You know, like, there are some NDAs that get signed from once in a while, and you know, the last thing you want to do is violate a clearance and violate an NDA and catch 55 years in prison because you're trying to look cool on a podcast, right?
No doubt.
But
no doubt.
Yeah, this wasn't a loaded question. This is like what's obviously.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, like,
we could definitely hang out. Yeah. We could definitely hang out in the declassified area. It's just what's declassified maybe that you can talk about that maybe people didn't know.
And anything that's open source that's out there that is already being discussed, but like maybe people haven't like clicked and looked deep into, those are things that are 100% on par we can talk about, right? So if we start talking about like the intelligence committee, I think I sent you a link to that, Kazi, when they were going live with it on the Senate, where they had the debriefing for the UAP conference, and they were talking about like, oh, we got like 2,000 videos of evidence of, you know, unidentified aerial phenomena, but we can only not explain 12 of them, right? And they can explain all these other ones away. Yeah, I'm not going to say that I know that number is not real. But what I am going to say is that UAP group, it was written in on that omnibus spending package relief bill. Say that 10 times fast. As the election was done in 2020, late November, that 6,000-page bill had it written in there that the Department of Defense needed to declassify and release all information regarding to UAPs. And so they had the UAP task force that was currently operating within the DoD. Now, they ended up shutting...
UAP means what?
The unidentified aerial phenomena, what was formerly known as a UFO.
For UFO.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep. And so now they're just calling them UAPs, right? That's their new thing, right? So you have this task force then get basically written into law by the House, Senate, and signed off by the president that they had 6 months to do this. And they were sweating bullets, and they were like going at fucking the speed of molasses trying to make it happen. So when they realized that they weren't going to be able to make it happen in time without maybe relieving things that are national security issues, they just dissolved the UAP group. And they were like, well, now there's no group to disclose anything, so go fuck yourself. And the Senate wasn't happy about that. So ONI and DOD came together, and ONI is the Office of Naval Intelligence. ONI, DOD come together and created a brand new task force that had only been operating for 7 days before they went to go before the Senate committee on the briefing on that. And so when you got this director of ONI and this guy from DOD talking about what they know about UAPs, they only had 7 fucking days to get ready for that briefing. So they didn't know jack shit to really put out there. And so the American people got basically a shit sandwich served to them on what was promised by your politicians as far as disclosure, right? But you have other countries that have already disclosed things, right? You had the former director of space and defense of Israel, the former director of space and defense for Canada. 3-4 years ago, these guys went full whistleblower and just started spilling the beans on everything, right? And that's all open source stuff. You guys can get on Google and start looking up all sorts of articles about it and find these things. Now, the director from Israel, he did not hold back at all. He was like, yep, there's about 8 different species that work with us, and they work with the United States and Russia and China and us. And he just started name dropping every country out there. And it's like, whoa, dude. I mean, he wasn't just dropping dimes, he was dropping manhole covers, you know? He blew the lid off of shit real quick and real hard. And it was shortly after Israel did that, Canada did it too. Now you got China starting to do it, and they're making claims and putting things out there. But I think some of that is just because they're trying to distract from other things they're doing in the world, right? But there's a lot of disclosure out there. There's a lot of things out there. If you look hard enough, you can find things. You can find things that, like the grays, the gray alien that everybody's so familiar with, right? The bug-eyed little creepy guy, right?
Right.
Everybody's so familiar with that. There is open source and declassified material out there that will now tell you that that's not a species. It's a technology. They'll tell you that there is multiple different species that are out there that use that technology. It's basically a drone. If you liken it to the movie Avatar, when they created this biologic empty vessel drone of one of the blue aliens, and they had this human upload his consciousness into it, and it interacted with them and looked and felt just like another biological creature of theirs. It's the same concept. Essentially, they use it for deep space exploration, scientific exploration, in just areas that they don't have the time to invest in. Now, the other thing that has made its way into open source over the last decade is that a majority of these species that are rumored to be working with our government and other world governments around here look just like us. And it's extremely hard to tell the difference. Kazi could be one of them. I could be one of them. Nuke could be one of them. They look just like us. If you go to Google and just type in Nikola Tesla FBI Vault, you'll go directly to the FBI archive, and you will find the documents from the FBI agents that raided Nikola Tesla's home and took all of his belongings. And the FBI to this day still stands by their finding that they believe that Nikola Tesla is an alien that came from Venus.
Damn, I never heard that.
It got declassified 2 years ago, and it's still on their vault to this day. It's all open source now. You can just Google Nikola Tesla FBI Vault. It'll take you right there, and you can read through all the diaries and the findings of the agents.
Wow. What was the name of the guy that you were talking about that was throwing manhole covers of information?
That was the head of space and defense and intelligence for Israel. So he was, yeah. So, yep, that guy was dropping manhole covers. So if you want to deep dive into alien conspiracy and things that are going on out there, I would start there.
You heard it here, folks. Mr. Tesla is an alien from Venus. That's in the FBI documents that are released as of 2 years ago that you could find right now. That's interesting as shit.
Yeah. Yep.
But I didn't think anybody would give you that information today.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny though, because like if you go back, to like some of the oldest cultures in this planet, right? Like the Sumerians, right? If you look at the cuneiform tablets and they talk about the stories of Enki and Enlil, you know, what did they say? They said that they came to this planet, they wanted to mine gold off of this planet, so they started gene splicing and creating a workhorse, which is us.
Right.
That was our creation story for the oldest civilization on this planet. And they said that the star that they came from, or the planet that they came from, was Nibiru, which we have just finally discovered within the last 10 years is a real fucking planet, and its orbit actually does every 10,000 years come into our solar system.
I saw a little bit of that on the news, but you know, the news, they give you just enough that it's like, hey, if you want to look it up for yourself, you can dig further. But we just discovered that. I did hear that. That was a couple years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, and interestingly enough, too, did you know we have 2 moons right now?
I did know that.
I've heard that.
Yeah, like that was something surprising to me. It was several months ago that I stumbled onto this article talking about Earth has 2 moons, and I was like, the fuck you talking about? The fuck we don't? Like, you think this is Tatooine? We got 2 suns now? Like, what the hell's going on, right?
Yeah.
And I start looking, and sure as shit, article after article after article, and what it was is there was a massive impact on the backside of the moon, and it broke off a huge chunk of the moon. And then now it's in orbit, and so since it's satelliting and orbiting, and I believe they said it kind of orbits with the moon and just kind of moves around with it, and so they're counting it as a second moon because it's just got enough mass to be so.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks, on Blunts and Discussions.
Yeah.
Well, I heard on the news, I think they just said it was a weather balloon and it went to something else.
Yeah. Where's my neuralizer? Hold on.
Yeah.
That swamp gas was only working in 84. Yeah, swamp gas. Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a weather balloon that crosses orbit every 10,000 years with us for some reason, but it's just a weather balloon.
Yeah, there's some really neat shit out there, and you know, if you dig hard enough and you know the right places to look, you can find some really interesting things.
Have any of you actually seen that movie? It was a comedy, man, by the brothers. I forget the director's name.
The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Huh?
Men Who Stare at Goats.
The Men Who Stare at Goats. Like, they weren't bullshitting. Like, dude, if there's something that's possible, like, hey, yeah, we're dealing with the underworld or psychedelic or fucking not psychedelic, but like what is it when you see ghosts? Like some it's not psychedelic. Paranormal phenomena. Like, bruh, they're like, if there's anything possible that we can learn, well, let's learn this shit. You know what I mean? Like, no holds barred, unlimited amount of money. Let's get it fucking figured out.
Well, and I wouldn't say it was an unlimited amount of money, you know, but they definitely were crafty when it came to applying for grants and getting certain academic grants coming in, and then pooling a bunch of money, giving a bunch of it to the school or university, and then like having an entire wing that they can use, you know. So there was a lot of things like that going on. It wasn't like they had just like an unspoken bank account with a bottomless pit that they can pull from. They had to be crafted.
You don't actually think the government spends $70,000 on a hammer, do you?
How do you get funding for something like this? You don't actually think they spend $20,000 on a hammer, $30,000 on a toilet seat, do you?
Man, you guys love that Independence Day reference.
That was a good clip.
Only we would have caught that. Only we would have caught that.
I don't know how
exactly. Only here on Blunts and Discussions.
So, all right. As somebody who's not really tuned into the TV world, I'm totally probably out of the loop with all that. Like, what is Space Force X? Can we talk about that?
Well, okay, so is you talking about the Space Force itself?
I just heard it said on TV. I don't even know who said it, and it just sounded like some next level shit to me.
Yeah. So let's go back to a history lesson of World War II. Okay, pre-World War II, all of our Air Force was part of the United States Army. Okay, and so all of our aircraft, all of our airplanes, it was all a branch of the Army. And it got so big that they made their own sub-branch in the Army, kind of like the Marine Corps is a department of the Navy. They belong to the Navy. They're not on their own. Everybody thinks the Marine Corps is on their own. They're not. They belong to the Navy, right? Now, the Air Force used to be the same thing with the Army. It got so big, just like the Marine Corps, that they called them the U.S. Army Air Corps. Okay. Now, in World War II, they separated from the Army and became their own branch. Well, then as technology evolved and we started dealing with information in space warfare, such as like satellites and all of our data and hackers and shit like that, that's the dominion of space. Same with intercontinental ballistics that can reach into orbit and touch anywhere on the planet. That's the dominion of space as well, right? So that became the dominion of the Air Force. And that became all their things because they said, well, space is kind of the air. So yeah, fuck you. That's your thing, right? So they had that and it was growing and growing and growing and growing, just like the Army Air Corps did. And they said, fuck, we're too big. Pop. And they separated, right? And so the whole space division of the Air Force had to become its own thing, and thus the Space Force.
Oh.
So that shit basically kind of started at the same time, I assume, as far as like when drones became became a part of it. You know what I mean? Like when there was people who would join the Army just to be a drone pilot or some shit. And, like, I'm sure all the services still have, drone pilots, but I would think it's kind of an extension of that. Like the more shit that you're, higher you get in the sky and the more technical it gets, it's kind of a different ballgame way up there.
Yeah. And essentially, I mean, like their platform's all about like satellites, information warfare, right? Like that's it's all the nerds, like the super nerds. That's where they're going, right? Like this is the hackers, right? These are the guys that, at 12 years old, we're trying to hack into the fucking Pentagon and shit, right? Like that's where they're going. They're going into Space Force, right? They would have gone into Air Force for a while, but now they're going Space Force. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It just sounded like some next level shit when I heard it. The only other time I felt like that is when I was standing in the DMV and I was hearing people get the real ID card, and I heard the lady behind the table say, if you get this, then you can experience some things, but if you get the real ID, then you can experience all America has to offer. And I just went into the Twilight Zone, standing in line like, whoa.
Yeah, well, I was just watching Joe Rogan. I don't know how many of you guys actually fuck with Joe Rogan pretty tough, but I was just watching this dude. And he was talking about these fucking Nazis that went over to Brazil. Did y'all see that shit?
Yep.
Brazil and Argentina, like this gang of motherfucking communities.
Watch
over
the documentary.
There,
watch the documentary called Hunting Hitler.
Yeah, didn't Hitler go there? That's what I was about to say.
Yep. Well, they went down to Antarctica, and then from there went back over to Argentina and set up an entire fucking community out there. And just basically retired out there. When they did the documentary Hunting Hitler, they went out to Russia because Russia claimed to have the body and the bones of Hitler, right?
It was a chick. They went and did a DNA sample on it. The Special Forces guy that's doing the documentary, he went out there and stole a fucking tooth off of it and ran it back to the States and fucking did a DNA test on it and came back to a female. Yeah.
Wasn't
so
even
we're just gonna go ahead and go live on Blunts and Discussions right now, and you're on the record saying that Hitler, those were not his bones, and he went to South America.
Well, transgenderism has been around since time immemorial.
Now, if you guys want to get back on the BlackRock thing here, we can continue on with that too, because it's pretty big. When I started going down the BlackRock rabbit hole, it got to a point that is truly terrifying, right? So at first it seems a little innocuous, right? It's like, oh, it's just this really wealthy financial advising company that is trying to influence their will in the housing market. Until you start realizing, when you look up all of the biographies and readouts and LinkedIn's and Wikipedias on every single congressman and senator, and you realize that their financial advisor is BlackRock. And it doesn't matter if they're a Democrat or a Republican. BlackRock is their advisor. And then when you look back to Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, all of their financial advisors, BlackRock, the fucking Federal Reserve, BlackRock. When you start looking at who owns Coca-Cola, BlackRock. Who owns Pepsi, BlackRock. Who owns Disney, BlackRock. Who owns CNN, BlackRock. Who owns Fox News, BlackRock. And then you start seeing the bigger picture and you start going, wow, they're really running and playing both sides and purposely trying to distract and divide everybody so that they can swoop in and buy it all and swoop it all from under our feet because we're too distracted hating each other rather than staying united as people. Then you start digging even deeper and you find out, wow, it's not just in America. BlackRock is the financial investor to Vladimir Putin. They're the financial investor and the backer to Zelensky in Ukraine. They're financing both sides of that war.
Yep.
You find out that they're financing Israel and Iran. You find out that they're all over Europe, Germany.
You know
England.
what's crazy? You know what's crazy to me, bro, is that it's like this country was founded on, hey, government for the people, by the people, for the people. And there was a time, man, where it was like journalism was real shit, and you could get newsworthy. You could be informed, you know. And it's like now, I think we talked about this on another podcast when I was like, dude, there's so much information out there now that you don't know what's legit and what's not. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there is such a thing as too much information. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know, I don't know, man. You know,
yeah, these guys basically run the whole fucking world. You know, so like when we talk about the real secret hidden hand, that's it.
Well,
that is who it is.
That's what
there is. My bad.
So the way that Vanguard comes into this is 50% of all of the companies in the entire world, BlackRock's behind them, and the other 50% is Vanguard. And so, like, when you look at our, back in the 60s, you had JFK talking about, like, beware of the military-industrial complex, right?
Yeah.
Well, who's the largest financer in Lockheed Martin? BlackRock and Vanguard. Both of them, right? They're the top two. What about Northrop Grumman? Oh, yep. BlackRock and Vanguard again, right? Boeing, BlackRock and Vanguard again, right? Like all of these companies, those two have got their dicks in every fucking hole, right? And so they're literally playing the fucking field. And then you find out what's really interesting is the largest investor in BlackRock is Vanguard. And the largest investor in Vanguard is BlackRock.
So the world's not ran by bankers like a lot of people assume. It's ran by
financial investors, which is technically bankers. Yeah.
Which and that's what I'm saying. And as far as like Illuminati shit goes, it's like, yeah, that is a great cover for something that sounds so stupid, you know.
But instead, it's the guys that make pancakes and donate tons of money to fucking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that shit sounds fucking dumb as fuck. When it's like, bro, when you really look at it, it's like, man, that was a dumbass thing. But by far along, we're fucking stupid. You know.
Well, it's like you said at the beginning, like Freemasonry, like, you know, you said the way you phrased it, it's not as sexy as it seems. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not, you know, man, it's not as mystifying and fucking, you know, as what's associated with it. And that's kind of, it goes back to like, well, even with the term Illuminati, it's not as magical and fucking legendary as it seems. It's some fucking bankers and fucking business suits and shit. Like, they're not fucking even like, you know, they're not having meetings for, you know, like actual meetings. Like, it's so fucking widespread, and all these the people who are actually making the money, it's like,
well, I mean, when you look back at the start of the Bavarian Illuminati, like when it first started, it was It was amazing. And essentially all it was a very young man who was a college professor, which was not abnormal at the time, right? Like if you look at like an 18, 19-year-old man now and you go, man, that kid's a college professor? What the fuck? No way. Well, back then, yeah, that was a pretty real thing because most people fucking died by the time you were 40, right? You know, so like you were already at that age of enlightenment, right? Now, this particular guy was very intelligent and he was a philosopher. And so he started this very small group on campus. Well, it started to grow and attract some very powerful people. And so where the sexiness of the Illuminati came from is because you had like the fucking Emperor of Japan in it. You had kings and queens and potentates that were involved in it. And the reason why is because in the start of it, they had their own order in it that was all about protecting the meek and the weak, right? So it had very honorable starts. So you had sitting across the table from you, the Emperor of fucking Japan. And you're like, hey, there's a real world problem with some very poor, destitute people over here that you got some barbarous forces coming in and slaughtering them and taking all their bread and food and money and wealth and homes from them. And they're like, you know what? I took an oath not to stand for that shit. And you'd have an emperor of Japan and a king of fucking France coming in together and eradicating the issue in secret. And they were like the fucking Avengers at the time, right? Yeah. But like, because it's secret, of course, then rumors start. And then once the rumors start, then other people that have nefarious means to them get attracted to it. And they start corrupting it, and then it becomes corrupt, and then it becomes the whole thing that everybody thinks, right? Yeah. So it had a good start, and it had really honorable intentions in the beginning. And as far as I'm aware, it doesn't fucking exist anymore. All of you clowns that get the fucking email that go like, you've been selected to be part of the Illuminati if you want fame and wealth and blah. That's bullshit scam thing.
You just gotta have a WhatsApp. You just gotta have a WhatsApp.
Yeah, and send me Visa gift cards. Yeah, like I got a bridge to sell you, motherfucker. Like, Jesus. Like, I can't believe people fall for that shit.
Yeah, you know? I was about to say, the amount of people that fall for it is like real, bro.
Mm-hmm. I remember getting a call from this young man down in Australia about 3 years ago, and he had told me that this guy claimed to be a Mason and part of the Illuminati and was inviting him to join his lodge. And I said, really? Well, that sounds a little weird, you know, for him to approach about both, because in Masonry, we don't recruit. We're not allowed to, right? Like, you got to ask us, right? And I was like, so that doesn't make any fucking sense. And he's like, yeah, it seemed a little weird. And I said, so tell me about how he told you about going about joining this Illuminati and this Masonic lodge. And I shit you not, he said that they requested that his girlfriend fucks herself with a crucifix and videotapes it and sends it to him, and then he'll be able to join. And I said, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? I was like, no way, shape, or form is that Masonic or have anything to do with us. But this fool was out there on Facebook wearing all sorts of regalia, rings, tattoos, all sorts of shit. Because, like, hey, we ain't got a copyright on it, right? You can go on Amazon and buy yourself a ring. That don't make you a fucking Mason.
Bro, I met a dude in Speedway Super America, man, on plane. I was way the hell out there. And he had noticed my ring at the cash register. And he's like, oh, I'm a Mason too. I'm like, oh, what lodge are you from? You know, that's pretty standard. That's the next following question. What lodge you from? I don't even know. Bruh, he did it online. Online.
Oh, man. I bet he sent a video of himself with a crucifix, huh?
Yeah. Same guy.
and some Visa gift cards. Fuck.
But I'm just saying, man, like he was uncomfortable with the questioning, you know, natural questions that a Mason would ask another before I get to shaking your hand and all this shit, you know. I could see that he was uncomfortable because he didn't really believe that you went through it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you did that shit online. Like, yeah, we're gonna give you an oath, this and this and that. So it's not just like, hey, send us your Visa cards. It's like, I'm gonna send you your Visa card, or send you a Visa card, get my degree online, and then contribute to pay. You know what I mean?
That's a great way to segue and tie a nice little bow around all the topics of tonight. So the same thing in Wicca, I would see all the time, right? No traditional training, no mystery school, no proper initiations, right? These are people that go and buy their Silver Raven dildo book at Barnes & Noble and call themselves a fucking priest, right? They ain't shit, you know? And you start questioning about things and you find out that you're running circles around them in 10 seconds, right? Same thing in the military. You get that thing all the time, right? You know, like earlier we talked about like 286 SEALs in Vietnam, but I met 800 of them, right? Yeah, how many of these stolen valor motherfuckers we come across all the time, right? They're out there wearing a uniform somewhere, and you're like, oh, what unit you with? And they're like, Special Forces SEAL Team 17, Sniper Squad, Marine Corps Force Recon, and you're like, oh, cool. Is that the Ninja Battalion? And they're like, yeah, but can't talk about that, you know? And you're like, yeah, okay.
I'm like a motherfucker, man.
Yeah, bro. Like, there's so many people that fake it. And what I've never understood is if you want it that bad, then fucking do it. Right?
Nah, man. Why do it when I can put on this fucking uniform and pretend? Because there's a million suckers out here that's about the, hey, man, thank you for your service. And it's like, yeah, no problem. But you never served shit. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Well, and you know, it's funny. Like, we inside of the vet community, we joke about that shit all the time. Like, our joke about thank you for your service is thank you for your cervix, right? You know, and we give no reverence to it because, like, sometimes it don't mean a lot, right? Like, you get a little kid that comes up and is like, thank you for your service, man. You almost get some tears going, right? But you get like the soccer mom Karen that comes up and is like, oh, thank you for your service, and they're just like dead in the eyes, their handshake's all limp, and you're just like, thanks for making my day really uncomfortable. Right?
Yeah, thanks for
like, you know, like, he's like, what the fuck? You know, like, I don't know about everybody else, but the only reason that I joined the Army is for free Applebee's once a year. You know, that's it.
Great answer.
Oh man.
Well, I don't know what Rod's doing, man. I think we gave the viewers quite a lot to think about tonight.
Yeah, Mr. X is definitely an interesting character. Or a man, not a character. This is the man in the flesh. What you got?
Yeah, sorry about that too, man. Like, children keep coming down, but yeah, Mr. Rex, I'm very grateful for you for coming on the show, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
No, yeah, man. Good talking.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. It's what time is it? It is 10:06 p.m. and this is Blunts and Discussions. We have Mr. X in the building. We have Nuke in the building, and we have this guy in the building.
No, I guess I gotta say my own name. So,
well, you know, that guy,
Bro host
Kamikaze, the bro host with the most. Well, thank you all, gentlemen. I appreciate it. You know, we'll be back here next Tuesday, 8 p.m. And thanks for tuning in to Blunts and Discussions, y'all. Y'all have a great night.
Blunts and Discussions.
I need to have me a Moldy's.
That's right. You know what? Let's
take a shot of Moldy yet.
I might as well go ahead and run that real quick. Moldy, yeah.
That's right, baby. Mm-hmm. Come on, you.
I'm trying.
That's it. Again, you know what? I can't do it. I just can't. You should have got a Moldy's.
Erectile dysfunction damaging your love life? Try Moldy's, the new revolutionary alcoholic drink that makes you stand up and be somebody. This drink contains alcohol. Side effects may include diarrhea, vomit, rash, heartburn, blue balls, rectal bleed, loss of memory, diabetes, and atrophic vaginitis. Moldy's does not protect against STDs. Consult a doctor if you show any of these symptoms.
Oh, ooh, that was great. Pass me a Moldy's.
Moldy's.
Thanks, Mo.
Oh, shit.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. Right. Fucking thing sucks.
flame, blinding and alluring as it may be. For by the light I observe the world of the dark that was the old. For light can never be observed without the presence of darkness, and darkness never truly observed without the light.
In the darkness creeping, when the whole world sleeps, I'll be swimming in the deep end. Tell me demonic for the defense. Started booming you niggas, I'm in the mood cause of eclipse. Shark food for the seasick. Nah, homie, you don't wanna feed if it's needed. If it bleeds, we can eat it. We can take a bloodbath, evil is freedom. I'm sick of being humble for you bitch niggas. I'm a pit bull when I gotta get dough. We can sick niggas. Don't make me put you on the hit list. Cause I can run your pockets off and soft and shit niggas. I find peace in a dark room. Spark up, feed the beast with your cartoons. Park it, get the heat, then I'll smart you. Run the streets with a sweet piece of the heart too. I like crawl with the hellhounds. Spend the venom I spit, niggas get little with them hellbound. I'm taking everything and nail down. And with the rhythm I kick back in the wind, I won't fail now. Set sail to another dimension, I'm on another level, I'm ready to die. Summon every demon that's in me, every enemy, my vicinity. Everybody can get a different ride. It's a mass homicide now. Lie down if you don't wanna die now. Hide out outside, cut the lights out. Cry now, poke both the nigga eyes out. Bye now, for real, that's brain. I feel no pain. Lord, have I gone insane? I know I've committed a sin again, no I'm not innocent. I bring the balance to faith. What's up with that darkness? Darkness.
In the darkness was eternity. The world that was a void. Eternal existence of infinite possibilities.
Darkness.
When your light came, it brought forward to my shape. And when your creations could see me for what I am, I became the reason they pray.
What is the light without darkness? The broken are the more evil. I fell from the light in the darkness and I'm left with no one to call. I might have to kill one.
You ever hear them real faint sounds, but some will turn around like nothing happened? You ever notice things move around, but most will never take their time to track it? We're living in a real strange world, I'm thinking it would be nice to understand it. You ever notice things move around, but some will turn around like nothing happened?
Woke up from a deep sleep, my dream vivid like 3D. I feel like I'm from another dimension, my demons on a million beep. It's a repeat. Telling my niggas it really was different, no weed fees. Where I seen things, and know my nigga would have been up on it running 3 deep, pushing 6 feet. Grave digger, brain sick under you lame niggas. The rain and thunder put me on my slumber, but I feel wicked with the main hit. It's like I smell the body with the pain thinner. So I get the liquor, but I can't figure like I see a vision in the kitchen cooking and the rootin' homie on the gang, nigga. Barracuda with the fangs, with the demon in me switching lanes now. Something in the room changed. No, like I feel like I'm in the same house, but I'm brained out. Whenever you wanna come run up the same route. I'm superstitious when I'm on a mission. If you think it's different, you can break out. Getting late now. Feel the shiver hit the room. Everybody disappears. I'm finna meet up with my doom. Nothing to say now. I can hear the laughing demon take out, but I never surrender. I pray loud. I'm looking as dark as the space now. Trying to beat the devil with the fake smile. Paranormal.
You ever hear them real faint sounds, but some will turn around like nothing happened?
Paranormal.
You ever notice things move around, but most will never take the time to track it?
Paranormal.
We're living in a real strange world.
Murder. 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 Do my dirt, but my lonely. I'll hurt murder. Until I murder them all. I already been dreaming to kill everybody so often think that my mental's the only reason I'm falling. All my negative thinking, I'm headed right for the coffin. I'm exhaling the smoke, it's a lonely road where I'm walking. I really don't feel like talking, so I'm just deep in my thoughts. Ever since I was young, I could tell that something was off. I've been fiending for murder, but thought I murdered them all. I had to battle my habits, my phantoms having the ball, but nobody noticed. I'm a poet, hoping to focus that I'ma soak up this life I was given, living the moment. Throwing my middle finger and let it linger, then own the shit on my shoulder. But so many cold, and now I'm alone again, ain't been sober, so no one can tell me nothing. I'm over it. I'm screaming fuck it till it affected my showmanship. Enemies ducking, lucky they wasn't bluffing that moment when I confronted you fuckers, you motherfuckers, I'm phony shit. But it makes no difference, smoking tap on the switches, back to back on the 100 sack with the batch in the kitchen. I spit the facts, I'm old fashioned, I flash on the opposition. You love the fact that I rap it, cause I am the definition. I get it up, I can get it, we gotta send to survive. Even though at any minute within the blink of an eye, I could be in your position to feel that sinking inside. What am I thinking to myself? I'll be by myself when I die. Red rum, keep it low key, do my dirt, but my lonely. I'll hurt them, but my hoodie I'm lurking till I murder them all. Red rum, keep it low key, do my dirt, but my lonely. I'll hurt them, but my hoodie I'm lurking till I murder them all. Murder. Murder.
Get the fuck out!